So let's just breach the surface on exactly what the process is. So can you walk us through when you feed the feedstocks in and what happens?
Yeah, so let's go into an explanation of what the process is. So the system is called the Muncher. And what the Muncher does is totally aerobically processes waste and turns it into a super nutrient rich, biologically activated fertilizer product. Right now we call it Muncher juice. And as Leighton has been doing testing, you've seen that it is showing some amazing results. Now, how the process works through a combination of mechanical, biological, physical processes. You have heat, we have aeration, we have agitation, we have the biological mixture. And then the way the system works from front to back is material is initially ground to bring down to uniform small particle size. It is then sent into a pre-digester or homogenizer, if you will. And the material there, we establish an initial liquid solid ratio, and it is then inoculated with the biomixture. Now that the biological mixture is all naturally occurring bacteria, microorganisms, and that material then is sent into the main digester. And from there, we run it through the process in the digester, and it is sent to the output collection systems, which could be barrels, totes, tankers, whatever vessel the material is going to be delivered in for final use. Now, the material itself remains viable. It's nutrient rich. The bacteria cornerstone of the function is that it enables non-legume plants to act like legumes, and the bacteria fixes nitrogen. And Leighton will go into more of that when we discuss reports later, but that's the cornerstone of how it works. Now, what happens in the process as we have built out and developed the system over the years is we've created an ideal environment for the bacteria to not only survive, but to thrive. And it maintains like a homeostasis. And what happens is, as that material is processing and being output, the liquid that is super bacteria rich, nutrient rich, is continuously cycling throughout the system through the front to back process. And it's maintaining that bacterial bed and maintaining the process in its ideal state. And that is basically, in a nutshell, that's how the process works.
All right, so we'll go a little bit deeper, and I think this is important. What Mo did was combine a series of different type of grinding equipment. So he's got a primary grinder, and then a secondary grinder, then a macerator, and on and on. And I think by this process, he's creating a tremendous amount of surface area for these specific bacterial colonies to establish themselves, and therefore allows it to continue to grow as he takes stuff off of it, which is, again, an amazing discovery. And I think that it's really important to shout out the fact that this thing balances itself. So if bacteria gets too far out of control, the protozoa kick in and they start to consume the bacteria. I truly believe there are other secondary, tertiary metabolic processes that are also starting to help governing that balance. But we saw this with the first round of experiments that we did, where when bacteria was out of control, we introduced juice, bacteria dropped. When bacteria was low and we introduced juice, bacteria rose. So again, there's so much more to this than what we're going to be able to get into today. It's probably going to take us another couple of 3 months to really suss out further information as to what's going on. So that being said, another thing that was really interesting was when we really started to get into the weeds with this, Mo texted me a nitrogen cycling diagram, which I really meant to send to Ken, and I'll try to pull it up in a minute here. That was fascinating because it was outside of the traditional aerobic nitrogen cycle. It was something that is often looked into in aquaculture. And so when he sent that to me, I sent that off to Keith. Wilda, who is not only a dear friend, but a very, very smart man who's been in the aquaculture industry since he was a very young age, and he instantly recognized it. And so I went back to Mo, and I'm like, Mo, how did you come up with this? So
Yeah.
come on, fill us in. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, so initially when we started doing this, I was working with, it's funny that you mentioned for the aqua systems, because that was how I started the experimentation. Was the initial thought was to reduce nitrate contamination from agricultural runoff. As an aside on that, the reason I specifically started with that, my mother was from Central California, an agricultural community, and she died of cancer at a very young age in the 1980s at 47 years old. And not only her, but a lot of people in the community that she was from died at young ages of these rare and unusual cancers back then. So there was this kind of cluster of this going on. And I became interested in this through that, where I was like, okay, this is a specific thing that I want to do just with water. To clean that the high levels of nitrate, because as 35 milligrams per liter of nitrate is cancer causing. So that was the initial motivation, and therefore using these nitrogen fixing bacteria, that's how I started the process to develop that.
So that's new information to me, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Very much so. So